Everybody, welcome here to today's Automotive Consumer Experience webcast panel. This is a monthly panel session we host here on AutoConversion. It's actually one of 6 different webcast programs we conduct each month under the Auto Retail Marketing webcast series. I'll fill you in a little bit more about that in a minute. I am Ryan Gerardi. Today is Thursday, March 19th. Appreciate taking the time to join us, whether you're tuned in here on the live stream or logged in backstage on the Zoom. It's great to have you here. I appreciate that. So our focus today, as you can see, is titled How to Beat Carvana at Their Own Game. And this is a theme put together by Lyamen Savy, who I'll introduce in a moment with the other panelists, really about kind of breaking down that barrier of your virtual and physical dealership as an oxymoron. So we're here to talk about what it takes to expand your dealership beyond the classical geographical boundaries and then turn your internet sales department into a true nationwide internet sales department. Now, in light of the current coronavirus situation, we will orient the discussion to be relevant on that front. Everything has changed for us across the industry, across the nation, across the world. Everything has changed. So, we'll be mindful that our conversation needs to speak to the current situation. Now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment and let you see the panelists that we have lined up. So on the panel today, we have Kimberly Skaggs, from CEO at 50 State DMV. Welcome, Kim. Glad you made it. We have John Robertson, Senior EVP at ShipYourCarNow.com. Hello, John.
Glad to be here.
We have Doug Slotkin. He's on the board of advisors at 321 Ignition. Hello, Doug.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody.
Mike, the car guy, Correra from Dealer Built, DMS.
Good morning. Happy first day of spring.
Happy first day of spring.
Yeah.
It's cold and rainy out here in Chicago. Always good to have you here, Mike. And then Lyamen Savy from 321, CEO at 321 Ignition, who actually helped put this whole panel together. So Lyamen, thank you so much for the work that you've put in to get us to this point, and great to have you here too.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. And thank you for everybody for joining us. John, Doug, Kim, Mike, really excited for this discussion.
So let me do a quick orientation, and then what I'll do, Lyamen, is have you really kind of kick off things, if you will. As I said, folks, this is the automotive consumer experience. So that's our focus is ideas, best practices, technologies that influence that automotive consumer experience. This is a Zoom webinar, okay? Traditional webinar. You can register at any point in time. You'll automatically get a link to join the webinar as an attendee. And the benefit of doing that is you can chat with the panelists. You can raise your hand. I can turn your mic on so you can ask a question. There's a Q&A function, so you can ask questions silently as we're talking and be part. We want this to be an interactive panel discussion, if you will. It is streamed live on our YouTube channel, and it's recorded. And once the live stream ends, then that video becomes unlisted. And that's how it is for all of our live streaming webcasts. The video becomes unlisted. So in order to access the recording, you have to have a link. And one of the best ways to get the link is to be subscribed to our YouTube channel, because then you get all the links to all of our stuff. So that's the best way to do that. And then we feature it on the AutoConverse podcast. So if you can't sit in on the whole thing or don't want to sit there and watch, you can always tune in, subscribe to the AutoConverse podcast, and be part of that as well. All right, let's get started. Lyamen, I'm going to let you kind of kick things off. And while you're talking, I'm going to check the Q&A and the chat and the live feed, do some housekeeping. And then I want you guys to just go at it. And, I'll chime in as I need to as well. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, you're on.
Well, hey, guys. So the purpose of this podcast is to talk about Carvana, how do dealerships compete against Carvana? Is Carvana a threat to dealerships? Or do dealerships actually have a better opportunity to beat Carvana at their own game? And what do dealerships need to do to actually excel and exceed in today's world, in today's digital world, especially with everything going on right now with the unfortunate coronavirus, and now more and more dealerships are offering free shipping and online car buying. But how do we actually improve the car shopping experience when on their website? Consumers first visit dealerships on their website. They're not going into a showroom. And with decrease in search volume now, traffic is going to be more and more expensive. Paid media is going to be more expensive, which means that every visitor you get to your website is that much more valuable. So what do dealerships need to do to make sure they're actually providing the best service, the best customer service to consumers, to make sure they're actually winning the market share? And when I say customer service is not only when customers actually calling a dealership and talking to a dealership, but also what is their experience before they even contact the dealership, the minute they visited and landed on a dealership website. This is an open discussion. Anybody feel free to chime in. So what is everybody's point of view on a Carvana? Is it a threat to dealerships, or is it an opportunity for dealerships right now?
I'm going to jump in real quick.
I think
I'm going to jump in real quick because when you ask a question and you say everybody, then we don't know where to start. So, Doug, I know I interrupted, but yeah, let's have you respond to that, right?
Sure.
Kind of go through the line and go from there.
Sounds good. So, Carvana is obviously a big player in the used car sales market. They sold 178,000 cars in 2019.
Audio disappeared again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, better.
I have a feeling you might need to be really still and speak directly. I just think the mic's struggling to pick up influxes. That's my hunch.
So Carvana sold 178,000 cars in 2019. And obviously that's a huge player in the market. In every market in the United States, there's certain markets that they're, every major urban market, I should say. So, that obviously means that there's a huge consumer demand for being able to do business online in a seamless, frictionless way. That obviously is consumer behavior is shifting that way. That's only now been accelerated dramatically with coronavirus, right? And that's not just in the car business. I just read an article today about the grocery business being changed forever, right? Because of coronavirus. Now all of a sudden, groceries are going to be delivered. A huge percentage of the groceries that are bought in this country are going to be delivered, right? Because Corona's going to be with us for 12 months, 18 months, right? So you have to think as a car dealership, how do I compete against Carvana, because they're a major player. Now Carvana is not impervious to this coronavirus. Far from it. They have a huge amount of debt. They have $1.5 billion of debt. They have $800 million worth of inventory, and they only have $100 million worth of cash. A lot of people think they're extremely vulnerable right now. In fact, Carvana could go out of business because of this. Some companies are going to go out of business. I don't wish them ill, but if they go out of business, who is going to gain that share, right? Go ahead, Brian.
From a technical standpoint, they still have a relatively small share of the market. I mean, they're 1/4 or 1/5 of the market share that CarMax has, right? And that the market that they're tapping into is about 12% of the total automotive market. So, yeah, that's a good point. They're a little vulnerable from a cash flow standpoint, which a lot of businesses are going to be or are real quickly right now. But go ahead, John.
I just wanted to build a little bit about what Doug said. When it comes to, this is what I like to say to our customers: what has Carvana done for society? Well, what it's done is it's helped the consumer adapt to the idea that they can actually purchase a car over the internet virtually without physically visiting a lot. And that's a huge change. That isn't something that they're used to doing. Currently under 5% of all used vehicles in North America move virtually, including the 170,000 out of Carvana. It's a very, very low percentage. But in the wholesale market, they're already moving 50% of all vehicles are being done virtually. So the wholesale market, the dealer to dealer, the auctions, they've adapted this. They're on board, over half the vehicles, and it's only going to grow now that coronavirus is here. I'm sure you've seen it. At least half the auctions have all gone to virtual only. Manheim at most locations is virtual only. They have no live people in the lanes. That's all happening right now. And so that cultural change Carvana kind of started for the consumer is being exponentially increased now with the coronavirus, because now all of a sudden people are saying, well, wait a minute, Now it's not just a luxury to buy that exact same color red one that I wanted and have it shipped to me out of Idaho. Now it's kind of I don't even want to go to the dealership for multiple reasons. I'm going to go ahead and buy it virtually. I'm much more in tune to doing that. And, you know, like I jokingly say to my customers, let's all thank Carvana for getting that movement started in society where consumers can begin to virtually purchase vehicles. And we're very thankful because that means we get to ship more vehicles and deliver them right to their customers' doors.
That's going to be Carvana's biggest impact, is not necessarily how many cars they're going to take away in market share from dealerships, as much as they're going to change the perception of how dealerships can do business. Exactly. And it's up to those dealerships, like Lyamen was saying earlier, to really focus on that. Dealerships have been able to ship cars cross countries for 20 years, 30 years. I mean, there's nothing that have ever stopped us. I've worked deals over the phone with people out of state on the sales desk for many years, and then contacted a shipping agency like you guys and had them trucked to out of state customers. That's not new. It's been that we haven't marketed it. We haven't shared that with our customers. We haven't truly showed the customer that we're trying to serve them. And that's going to change. That perception is going to change. Instead of how can we sell a car today? How can we serve you? We understand your want to stay home and you're concerned for your health. So we will bring the car to you. And that kind of started with that whole Carvana will deliver the car for you. And now dealerships that really jump on board with that are going to be the ones that weather the storm. We've had storms before. It's just the creative ones that succeed in the storm.
Right. And creative, but also ones that are aggressive about promoting it, right? You know, that I think is the key in terms of gaining share, because you can have the ability to do it, but if people don't know it, right, then, you know, you're going to have a hard time gaining the share that you would like, and being aggressive about promoting it and casting a wider net, right? I think that's the key is, you know, I think a lot of businesses, I've seen it before in the real estate business, a lot of real estate agents in 2008 had to adapt their business when the market crashed, had to adapt their business by generating leads in a wider area, because they could no longer focus in that small geographic farm, because there just wasn't enough business in the small area that they used to do business in. So if you cast a wider net for example, a dealer maybe doing paid search in a wider area, because you can deliver cars in a wider area, you have the ability to do business in a wider area, and you can promote that. I think that's a way to adapt to the new reality of the fact that, you know, you're not necessarily just going to want to do business as a consumer in that local market. You're going to be willing to buy a car from a dealer 100 miles away, 150 miles away, if they're willing to do business with you the way you want to do business, which is virtually, you know, and have that car delivered the way you want, safely and conveniently.
Yeah, and actually I want to add to that. So to Doug's point about now being able to service customers 100 miles outside of your radius, that actually could help dealerships sell more cars at a lower cost to acquire a customer. Because in some markets, let's say, for example, if you're in Renton has like, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 dealerships right next to each other. Some areas in California, the dealerships like literally right next to each other, all of them at the same area. If a dealership wants to do any kind of marketing, let's say they're running Google AdWords campaigns and bidding on keywords within specific geo area. Google is an auction model. The more people are bidding on the same keyword, the cost per click goes up. So now imagine if a dealership could actually expand and go into some of the other areas that maybe there's fewer dealerships who are advertising and bidding on the same keywords. Now all of a sudden their cost per click goes down, which means for the same marketing budget, they could actually generate more leads and more car sales. So it's an opportunity for dealerships to actually, how do they sell more cars with the same budget, or even reduce their marketing budget? But the other thing is, you know, we should really think about the user experience. You know, there's been a lot of talk for several years now in automotive about digital retailing. And digital retailing now is like the hottest, buzzword, and everybody keeps, throwing digital retailing. Digital retailing has been around for God knows how long. You know, people used to be able to call a dealership from Craigslist ad and say, talk through the deal, talk through the financials, and then, a customer will walk in and actually, if they agree to terms and conditions and buy a car. That was digital retailing. But in order to be really successful with online, being able to sell cars online, we need to think about the user experience, UX, UI. So I see a lot of dealerships are adding Roadster or CarNow to their website. But how do you even get through the website? When I look at the Google Analytics, I see dealerships' websites have 60% bounce rates. So that means 6 out of 10 people that visit a dealership website immediately leave. They don't even spend time actually looking through the inventory. So, you know, the way to beat Carvana is not just the fact you're offering, you know, shipping, or the fact you're offering people to, you know, apply for a car loan that's been around, but it's the fact, like, what is the user experience? Like, Amazon's been successful because they obsess over every single little thing on their website. You know, the one-click checkouts, you know, how they color code their buttons, how, you know, what's the primary call to action, what's the secondary call to action, versus if you go to dealership websites right now, they have like 6 buttons, all the same color on the same page. You don't even know what to click on. You know, so the user experience is just as important. And this is why, you know, when we integrated with ShipYourCarNow, we didn't just, you know, add a widget. We did an API integration. You know, we thought through what is the best way to communicate the value proposition, or what's the best way to communicate the right message to the right person at the right time. So for example, one of the dealerships we're onboarding right now is Fisher's Imports. It's a dealership in Indianapolis. And they actually have a CarNow digital retailing tool installed in their website. But they also offer actually up to 200 miles free delivery. And first of all, they weren't promoting on their website they even offer free delivery. But second of all, you know, when somebody completes a CarNow, you know, digital retailing, there's nothing at the end says now, you know, ship your car. So why aren't the dealerships adding the ship your car capabilities on their website? Or even before that, like before somebody goes through the process of, you know, getting pre-approved and things like that, the first question probably comes to mind for a consumer. So how much is shipping going to cost me? So what are dealerships are doing to actually, you know, allow a customer to get a quote on their website, how much shipping will cost, or even say, you know, the first 250 miles is free, but if you're located further than 250 miles, here, get a quote. And then what is the experience? Like, for example, one of the integrations we're doing for our dealerships.
Lyamen, can I just, I need to interject real quick because we've got people that are watching that are throwing in their 2 cents, and I want to make sure to include them in the conversation. And I'd also really like to hear from Lyamen as well. I think the piece you brought up, I'm sorry, I'd like to hear from Kimberly. I think what you're getting at with the shipping piece is really important. And so I want to give us time to get back to that in a more specific way.
Yeah.
Kimberly, I have a question for you that goes back to the Carvana thing, but I just want to you know, read some sentiment coming in from some of our viewers on the live stream and the webinar. Jim says, Amazon set the stage and has conditioned the consumer. And Carvana's made mistakes and they've learned. And smart dealers will study what worked and what didn't work for Carvana and will improve their business models accordingly based on the resources available. And Chris on the live feed says he's not convinced that people really have a good experience with Carvana. Most of their locations have a 2.5-star rating. So I thank you guys for chiming in. Kim, my question to you is you're 50 state DMV. You're effectively nationwide titling and registration. We are, I would say, you know, a week plus into this shutdown quarantine, but we're about a month into the frenzy. Are you seeing anything already to indicate, you know, what's happening with car sales right now, or any sort of predictive forecast that you could share?
Car sales are very, very flat right now. However, if you compare them to the rates of last year sales, it's quite bluntly almost normal. We're a little bit down. What we're seeing, drastic increase for this time of year. Again, for this time of year, I'm not even talking about Corona, but drastic increase for this time of year is RVs. RVs are very, 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 very crazy right now. Crazy.
Right now, like people are moving into RVs, like getting out of cars?
Purchasing. They're purchasing travel trailers. They're purchasing motorhomes. Boats are flat, but they're always flat this time of year. Always. Vessels, boats, vessels. But vehicles should be a little bit busier because we are in tax time. RVs, they're crazy right now. Just crazy.
Does that make sense now that I think about it?
Yeah, well, I think people are getting their bug out vehicles ready, right?
No,
But
no, just to clarify, we're seeing a combination. We're seeing a combination of families that want to do something with those kids for spring break and this summer,
sure.
not comfortable taking them to public places. So we're seeing families purchase family designed units, and we are seeing some of the bug out type.
Yeah.
Horrible statement. Bug out type RVs. That's way up as well. It's interesting to watch. It really is.
Sure.
While Lyamen was talking, one of the things that I truly, look at me pointing with my pen. One of the things I truly believe is that the dealerships absolutely have to retrain, recondition their internet sales staff to quit begging people to come into the dealership. We have to cater to them. We have to ease their mind and let them understand that all of the financing can be handled through e-signature. All of the title and registration can be handled. You're going to get your plates. The dealerships absolutely have to open their minds. They have to turn themselves into Domino's Pizza. Domino's Pizza works for their customer. From the second you place the order, you get that little cute tracker on your phone. So-and-so's making your pizza. Your pizza's in the oven. Your pizza's on its way. Oh, and by the way, your tags just left. Your plate, your registration, it's on its way to you, and here's your tracking number. The dealerships have to work for the consumers.
Really, you bring up a really good point, because even though consumers usually buy a car maybe once every 3 years, every 5 years, every 8 years, but when they're buying a car, they're comparing their car buying process to ordering Domino's Pizza, to ordering something on Amazon. And so, your competition is not just, dealerships saying, well, every dealership website is bad or the experience is the same. Consumers are comparing their experience of buying a car to actually buying car insurance on Geico, ordering Domino's Pizza and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
The dealerships really need to look outside of their own industry and see how our other companies are treating customers online.
I think that's one of the cool things we did with the API integration with 321 Ignition, Lyamen, was to actually build that Amazon shipping experience into the solution. So if any of you take a look at any of the dealerships where Lyman's solution is residing, you'll see the shipping component actually has regular shipping charge, expedited shipping. You can pick what shipping you would like, as opposed to just being given a number and then the vehicle arrives whenever it arrives, which is very different than a normal shipping experience. And it's really tuned to the consumer, right? Because in the wholesale world, they're more used to, I pay one number and I get my car when I get my car. But in that consumer experience, they want to know what that expectation is. They want to be able to set it for themselves, just like you do on Amazon. And that's one of the really brilliant things that Lyamen and her team did in integrating our API, was to make that an option for the customer.
Yeah, and Jen, waiting till you see what we're doing with Fisher's Imports, how, because so the Fisher's Imports, actually, they offer free delivery up to 200 miles. But then if it's outside of 200 miles, they want to give customers $200 credit. And so we're going to be using ShipYourCarNow API to then subtract the $200. And so that way, and so those are the benefit of doing an API, is that you could design the experience to be whatever you want. ShipYourCarNow has amazing data that feeds and provides a quote. This is their current website. We haven't launched the website yet.
Oh, you haven't?
No, we haven't launched it. We're working on it right now. But you see, here's an example. You're in the Fisher's Imports site right now, and the only thing it says, we now have 2 locations. They're actually missing out on an opportunity to communicate value proposition, the fact that they even offer free shipping or up to 250 miles. Right. And this is what I mean by, I visited, I don't know how many dealerships websites by now, like thousands, I think. I obsess over it. And the biggest missed opportunities dealerships have is they don't invest enough time in communicating what makes their dealership unique. Why them? What's unique about you? Why should I shop from you instead of Carvana? Why should I shop with you instead of another dealership? Like one of the dealerships we're onboarding right now is a GM dealership. They have amazing stories to tell about their service department, but if you go to their website, you would never even know that they do what they do with the service department. And so that's a huge missed opportunity, is to actually communicate their value proposition.
More than free Wi-Fi and we're family owned and all that.
Yeah, nobody cares you're family owned. Not to sound insensitive.
Right. You
But
need the unique selling proposition, right?
yeah, and this is where, you know, having people that are marketing experts is so important. You know, unfortunately, a lot of dealerships are just really small and they can't afford to have a marketing team, you know, because marketing team, it's not just a one person's job. You need a copywriter, you need a project manager, you need a developer, you need a UX designer. Before all said and done, you need a team of 12. What kind of a local dealership could afford that? So therefore, they need to work with agencies and website providers that are experts at it. But it's not just important, you know, evaluating, is my website provider OEM approved, but who's on their staff? You know, who do they hire to actually build your website? Are those people marketing experts, or are those people junior people just, you know, graduated college with a, you know, web design degree but don't really understand marketing? You know, it's really important to understand who is it going to be building your website.
And
I gotta
sadly,
chime.
many of us in dealerships don't really have a good grasp of marketing. And what we're looking at is this company co-opable? Can I get, you know, some of the fees from this company covered by the factory? And that's really got to change as a driving decision.
And Mike, you know, that's the thing that drives me nuts the most is when dealerships say, you know, is my website going to be co-opted by the OEM? Dealership websites, what, cost $1,000, $2,000? In the grand scheme of things, it is like the smallest expense of a dealership. Instead, they're spending $50,000 in advertising. They're spending money, you know, on having just even their location, the inventory that they have and things like that. It's like, so when dealerships talk about, you know, oh, but my website is getting co-op, $2,000. How much does it cost for you to run the business?
I completely agree.
Well, let's
You
talk
know,
talk for a second about too the changing perception of the dealership. I have a funny story. It was only a little over a year ago. I sat at a luncheon at a conference and realized that two people across from me were the social media person and the internet person for a large dealership out of St. Louis that will remain nameless that sold specialty trucks. And I said, "Oh, well, you guys are exactly the kind of dealership we can help." And they said, "Well, we don't understand. What do you mean? We don't ship cars." And I said, "Well, you're the internet and you're the social and you're building." They said, No, you don't. This is what they said to me. "John, you don't understand what an internet department is. Our job is to get people to come to our dealership. That's what we do." And I kind of went, okay, I've got some other people I can talk to at this point. But you know, it's so funny that that's such a prevalent idea of a brick and mortar location, that it's all about geography and it's all about what they can pay
for many, many years, though. That's just a result of so many years of that being patched in our head.
That's the way we've always done it, right? Classic. Classic. So
very brief.
Let's get them in.
Sorry, very brief consumer story. I purchased a specialty pickup truck about a year ago. I contacted 3 dealers across the country that had the truck I wanted. The first 2, I called them pre-qualified, ready to purchase, wanted the vehicle delivered to me. By the time it was over, the first 2 dealerships completely ignored me because they said I needed to go to the dealership. One was in Washington State, the other was in Oregon State. They refused to sell to me because I would not go to the dealership. Wow. The third dealership was in Oklahoma. We finished the transaction, got everything taken care of. Then they couldn't get it delivered because it was too wide. They ended up having to send a driver with it to me. So I had to receive a brand new specialty vehicle with 750 miles on it rather than the 15 miles that was on the paperwork.
Now, just a shameless plug, Kim. We have discussed that we could have moved that for you.
Yeah, I know.
Now you tell us, John.
I just want to make sure.
Hey, a couple things from some listeners. Jim chimed in when you were talking about the Domino's analogy. And Jim added, it's a great analogy, not to challenge it, but that with dealers, there's so many variables and moving pieces, it's much more complicated than moving pizzas, if you will. It's a good point. I wanted to.
It is, but the customer's perception is not that it's complicated. The customer's perception is I can get a home loan in 15 seconds. Why can't I buy a car in 20 minutes? And you and I actually talked about this at Driving Sales last year. And I used that same analogy of the Domino's pizza, the little widget. People like to see that tracking and they like to know that people are working behind the scenes for them. There's no reason we can't.
And that's where Kim's solution comes in, because Kim's solution, what she's doing at 50 State DMV, makes that seem seamless, to use that term, to the consumer. all that complication is going on. I think it was Jim that had mentioned that. All the complications going on, but the consumer experience is, hey, it just magically, the pizza arrived. It had pepperoni and hopefully it wasn't cold.
Guys, what I want to do is, because we're coming to the bottom of the hour and it's fine. We have a few minutes left here, but really want to get where dealers are feeling pain right now. And Chris, who's on the live feed, is a dealer. He's a dealer down in Las Vegas. And his dealership, which I think is going to be across the board, probably by the end of this week, they've shut down sales for 30 days.
Wow.
And what Chris explained is they can't even deliver a car. So they can't even sell a car right now, right? So what that makes me wonder is, should a dealer be even focused on trying to get consumers to at least be in shopping mode? You know, Lyamen, you talk about, having that mobile first user experience. And if I can't deliver you a car, should I at least still be going through the motions,
You should still be trying to keep them engaged, keep them informed, keep them entertained, keep them as a community that you've built online, keep contact with them. If you keep communication open, once they are able to come out and buy cars, that pent up need in that market is still going to be there, and it's going to explode. We've been through some challenging times. When we went through the crash in 2008, there was a number of factors involved. We don't have gas that's over $5 a gallon right now. We don't have a lot of the other contributing factors. Yes, it's a tough time. I'm not trying to diminish it. It's just different. And once things start to calm down, people are going to be coming back out. Gas is still going to be relatively inexpensive. Vehicles are still going to need to be repaired. Vehicles are still going to need to be replaced. So all this need is going to really benefit those dealers that kept in contact with their customers through this challenging time. Even if it's not trying to say, hey, we're trying to sell a car, here's some information that's going on. Here's some of the things that we're doing. Here's some of the things that the manufacturers are doing to try to ease your concerns.
Yeah,
Keeping
and
your
forefront.
yeah, that's actually really, really important. So one of the things that I think dealership websites are missing out on is providing tools and information for consumers to do their research. Even if customers might not be actually buying a car this week, they are researching, they are still thinking about it. Nobody thinks, the world is coming to a full end. And so as an example, like here's a real world story. So there's a dealership, Chevrolet dealership here. And they were telling me how their Chevy sales are down Dodge Ram sales are up. And they were telling me about all the great stuff about the Chevrolet Silverado. But when I go to their website, and that was, I visited, that was last year I had this conversation in December. And I'm like, okay, well, let me see your website. What kind of research information do you have about Chevy versus Dodge Ram for 2020 model? And they had on their website, get this, they only had information, they had a page on where it says, search your inventory. They only had information about Chevy Silverado 2018 model. Why are they had no information about the 2020 model, but they had information about 2018 model. So dealerships' websites are not actually doing a good job of helping consumers do their research, being able to compare cars side by side, be able to understand the finance options. Their only option is to go immediately buy the car or nothing. But a lot of the dealership websites I see, for example, they buy these third-party widgets like dealer sites, that says, here's what your monthly payment would be. But it doesn't allow you to customize it. It just tells you what your monthly payment would be, and you have to go through the whole car loan approval application to see what your car loan payment is going to be. But why aren't dealership websites are offering consumers to actually play around with the tool, and before you actually start applying for a car loan, see what would your monthly payment would be if you had a good credit score or a bad credit score, the down payment versus trade-in plus shipping costs plus title registration. Like the websites are not allowing consumers to do their research. And Amazon became so successful because it allowed customers to do their research. They were able to see reviews, read the reviews. They were able to, compare side-by-side stuff. And going back around to your point about mobile, especially on mobile, for the first time, there's a website called Statistica, I think it's called. They actually have data, and it shows that now, for the first time last year, the mobile usage has surpassed desktop usage. So how our dealership websites are actually, allowing consumers to do their research on their smartphones, not just on desktops. And a lot of times when I visit dealership websites, the desktop is okay, but mobile is just a terrible experience. And, you know, this is a missed opportunity when people are sitting at home watching TV and browsing on their phone, looking through cars. You know, how is the dealership websites actually helping consumers do their research?
I want to bring Jeff Infeld on. Jeff, I'm going to turn your microphone on so you can ask your questions. A couple things here that have come up while everyone's talking. And I'd like to get Kim's response on this, because this was actually really towards you, Chris. One of our viewers says that dealing with out-of-state DMVs can be very difficult. Sometimes sales managers, F&I, people aren't able to figure out the details of the state deals and end up costing dealers in the long run. Can you respond to that real quick?
Absolutely. That exact situation is the reason we exist. At 50 State DMV, we understand that your title clerk in your dealership is amazing. She knows everything there is to know about your state and probably 3 or 4 states that are relatively close. But if we're going to do a cross-country transaction, your title clerk's going to struggle. Your F&I guys, they're going to struggle. It's just the way it is. So what we do is we provide the fee calculation for the registering jurisdiction, as well as every single form that's going to be required to complete the transaction and record that lien correctly, along with a detailed checklist. We also deal with the buyers to gather required inspections, smog, VIN, sometimes a weight slip. It just depends on the situation. One of the things that we have stopped is chargebacks to the sales or F&I for bad calculations, because you're not good. We don't want you to give up a sale over not knowing. So we provide the numbers so that you can sell with confidence to anybody anywhere in the country, and know that you're going to protect your relationship with your lender as well, because that lien is going to be filed correctly.
Thank you, Kim. Jeff, before I ask your question, Jim chimed in. Mike, good point. Maybe a little consumer education to address perception is required. There's a genuine value that dealers deliver, and those who want to deliver the transaction online have options too. No need for room for everyone in this market. I'll add, I know we're going to wind this down, the chat function of Zoom, just so you know, Jim and others, might be better for the than the Q&A for providing input like that, because then all the panelists can see that, you know, in real time. Mm-hmm. John, to answer your question about not being able to deliver cars, Chris on the live feed said yes, it's the state has put a restriction on that. I don't know if that's gonna. I don't know if that's how many states have already implemented that. That's pretty serious. If they're not even letting a dealer deliver a car, I mean, that to
that's
me.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's the first I've heard that. I know the wholesale market's going crazy right now. The dealers, just comment to that real quickly from earlier. Dealers are purchasing inventory left and right to be ready for when we come out of this. But that's the first input I've heard about delivering cars. And actually, we have one of our new reps that just joined us this week is actually out in Las Vegas. So I'm going to ask her to do a little research on that and see where we are, because I know we've got moves that are in process as we speak. So we need to get on top of that right away.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on that. Now, John Pasamato is up here. He's from Drive It Away. Says, in times like these, that prompt dealer for change for the survivors and the demise of others. We've had good times for 10 years, and now there's now the rules are being rewritten. Jeff, your mic is on. What did you want to ask the panel?
I just wanted to tie this back to where do we kind of normalize the experience for the customer, knowing that the retail's in flux, and bringing it back to the service side. How do we? What's your recommendation from a service department side? I'm in contact. Our company is called Quick Ride, and we provide dealer shuttle management software that manages their own shuttle fleets and parts delivery vehicles. We're doing software that does pick up and drop off for them to get out there, pick a customer's vehicle so they don't have to leave their home. So we're seeing quite an uptick in demand across the country as dealers are figuring out what they can and cannot do. I mean, talked to a big dealer group in New York today, and they're like, yeah, the state says we have to go down to a quarter of our employees only that could be active at any one time. So there's quite all kinds of rules and regulations. But what is the one thing that you'd be recommending for dealerships to be messaging on the service side of their business at this time? Because it looks like the service sides are the ones that are going to stay open for the next 30, 60 days. And they're going to fall into what's called the essential workers category, meaning governments are going to let them stay open because it's safety on the road of vehicles. So what are your thoughts targeted towards service?
Doug, I have a feeling you want to jump on that one.
Well, I mean, to me, you have to, there's obviously going to be a slowdown in car sales. Obviously new car sales are going to slow down both from the supply perspective and the demand perspective. But to me, service is going to be a way for you to maintain some revenue coming in the door. People are going to have to hold on to their cars longer in this environment than they otherwise would. People are going to have to postpone that car purchase that maybe they were planning because they're not going to want to give up cash that they otherwise would have. They'll hold on to that car. So that means more service. So if I was a dealer,
and Doug, also to be more specific, the immediacy I'm talking about, like there's warranty work, there's safety, there's tires, there's things that have to be done immediately. I'm not talking about long-term, but how would you address that messaging from the immediacy of it?
If I was back in the dealership as a GM, I would be posting videos of my service porters with disinfectant wipes going over customers' vehicles in the service department between each department as it's being moved through, showing customers, hey, we're taking your health concerns very serious. We want to make sure that we're doing everything we can. We know you need service. We know your car needs to stay clean. So here is Joe. He's one of our porters. He's wiping down your car. He's wiping the steering wheel off after one of our other technicians got out of it. And before it gets back to you, it's going to be completely disinfected to make sure that you feel comfortable driving it home or bringing it to you.
And
Here's a thought.
Nice thought.
Let me throw this out. This is from John Pasamato. He's at Drive It Away because Chris on the live feed said can't sell cars. What about vehicle subscriptions right now? I don't know if I don't know if there's a lockdown on that. And John, maybe I can turn your mic on, but that's an idea too. I think going back to your question, Jeff, right? Which is what can a dealer do now to focus on the experience, and obviously service is one area that they can, but maybe vehicle subscriptions is an option.
If I could add one thing about the service department. So service department actually, I think, is one of the most overlooked opportunities for dealerships to do a good job of promoting on their website, especially used car dealerships, because or even new car dealerships. A lot of times the perception is if you go to your dealership to get a service department, it's going to be more expensive than if you go to some local mechanic. And dealerships are not doing a good job of, again, communicating the value proposition of getting their car serviced at the dealership. So for example, one of the dealerships we're working on launching their website. It's a GM dealership. They actually offer oil changes for $49 versus a local, oil change shop charges $69. But they don't actually say that on their website. So like a consumer would have never known that in a million years. They also offer, actually, if you're an existing customer who bought their car from that dealership, they will give you, if you need to repair anything in your vehicle, they'll give you 20% discount on the hourly rate to any mechanical work. Again, they don't promote that on their website. So dealerships are missing out a huge opportunity to communicate to consumers how by buying a car at the dealership, how that impacts the lifetime of their experience with that dealership. How is the service going to be taken care of? And the perception, the fact that, that they're more expensive than going to some local mechanic. And also just the risk of going to a local mechanic. Like, for example, the dealership I'm working with, they were telling me a lot of times when a consumer takes their car to a local mechanic shop, the local mechanic shop will charge them, I don't know, like $70, $100 to do diagnosis fee, but then they can't repair it because they don't have the right equipment because they're not a GM dealership. So then the consumer has to go back to the GM dealership and pay again the diagnosis fee to actually repair it. And so he's like, by going straight to the dealership, it's do it once and you're done. But again, the dealerships are not communicating that on their website. So that there's a huge opportunity right now for dealerships to actually reevaluate what does their service department pages look like, including communicating about what are they doing to disinfecting things, make sure, customers feel safe of doing that, but also how service department could actually impact their car sales, because people who are maybe looking for oil change today or maybe repairing something else, it's an opportunity to cross-sell and upsell to get a new vehicle, trade in your current vehicle, get you unique used inventory into your dealership. And so again, this goes back to marketing. Dealerships just don't have a good marketing department to understand and think across all the departments and how everything's connected to each other.
To your point, Lyman, right now it probably makes sense to have service be right on the home page, right?
Yes.
Because obviously buying cars right now is not top of mind for a lot of consumers for a million reasons, whereas service is probably a more likely scenario as a way to generate revenue.
Yeah. And including also trade-ins. Like dealerships spend a lot of money going to auctions, not only due to their time, travel costs and expenses, but also then paying auctions, the transaction fee, and then shipping the car. And they're completely missing an opportunity to generate used inventory from their own website. If you visit any dealership websites, especially those that are powered by one of our competitors, I'm not going to name names, you can't even find a trade-in tool on their website unless you click around and about us page, finance page. Why don't they actually make it easy for customers to find a way, trade as your car or sell as your car? That's how CarMax actually been, CarMax runs commercials, not promoting come buy a car from us. They're running commercials saying, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy our car. They're focusing on getting people to give them their unique used inventory. So dealerships are completely missing at a boat of, thinking through of a customer journey, regardless if somebody is looking to buy a car, service a car, or get rid of their car. And then understanding the lifetime value of a customer, regardless of how they actually started engaging with the dealership.
I want to give John Passamato, I enabled your ability to ask your question, John. I think it might be related back to we're talking about vehicle subscriptions. But go ahead, John. You're live.
Yeah, I think sometimes you get confused with subscriptions, but it's very interesting. I had no idea that Vegas was shut down for car sales. If rentals are not shut down, and I have a feeling they might not be, then whether you call it a vehicle subscription or a rental, it'd be very interesting to include the pickup and delivery that everyone's been speaking about, and the ability for a dealer to put someone in a monthly rental in lieu of a sale, right? For a used vehicle. It also speaks to what was just said about scared to get into a commitment right now. I imagine a lot of people, right, are a little nervous about either putting out a lot of cash or getting into a 3-year contract. This could keep folks, it's one creative thing, tie it into your digital. This could keep folks actually there, right, on a monthly basis that would convert to an ownership when this passes. And I think it was very, very well said at the beginning that, it's the guys that develop a strategy and alter their business model, right, that succeed in the long run, right? Everyone knows this will come back. The question is, what shape are you going to be when it does, and how can you alter practices to gain by it? And the guys that gain usually make a whole I hate to say it, but I think I'm the oldest guy in the room here, right? So I've been through some crises before, and it's always the case. I think it was mentioned in the beginning, there's a big shift in market share, and it's always the guys that get creative, and these practices that maybe they should have done beforehand, but their general managers were scared to because they make money on what they're doing now and they don't want to alter. Well, it's a crisis like this that, hey, I'm not making money now, so I better alter. And some guys just don't alter strategy, and other guys that do end up way ahead, right? Further ahead than they would be had the crisis not happened. So I just kind of wanted to throw that in.
Thank you, John. I like that message, and I'd like to provide some focus here for everyone that's listening or watching this. Lyamen, I think what I'm hearing from you is you got to focus on the messaging, particularly of your website, and that UX, that user interface experience, that interaction. And John P., as you were just saying, you got right now we have to think out of the box and find alternative ways to work through all this. I couldn't help think of you, John Robertson, with Ship Your Car Now. It just seems like, listening to everybody, you're in such a position right now to really focus, with your partners like 321, on that messaging and the solution. You have the solution and you got to put the message behind that. So I'd like to put that out there as a good takeaway because we kind of have to wrap this up. Lyamen, is there anything you want to add, or can I go ahead and wind this down for us?
Close it out.
I think what's key here is, and for those on the webinar, Jeff, thank you for chiming in. I think what's key here is focusing on the now. If you've listened to my podcast over the past couple of years, one thing I always say is think ahead, right? Where's things going? And that has all changed. Right now, it's like, what do you have to focus on right now? And I think what's evident is, as Chris said on the live feed, can't even sell cars. And who's going to buy one anyway? Who wants the long-term commitment? So our vehicle subscriptions, kind of a loophole in that. What can we do on the fixed op side, Jeff, as you added, with focusing on, that enhancing that consumer experience on the fixed op side through shuttle service. Lyamen, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I wanted to add actually one closing remark is, this is an opportunity for dealerships to really reevaluate how they're doing business. And a lot of times I hear dealerships ask me, well, who else is doing it? Who cares who else is doing it? By the time everybody else is doing it, you no longer have a competitive advantage. One of my favorite things that Doug always says is, fortune favors the brave, not the follower. And, so this is an opportunity for everybody to just really, look through their marketing strategies and look at their customer service, not just customer service when you're actually talking to a customer, but how are you treating your customers?
We lost you, Lyamen.
Huh? What was that?
It was fine. No, I think you're reinforcing the message. What can we do right now to adapt and adjust? Let's go ahead and wind it down. Mike Correra, I didn't know if you had one final comment you wanted to throw in there.
No, it just goes on with what everybody's saying. We have to stop saying think like a customer and actually start thinking like a customer. Start looking at our own website and thinking about a person that wants to stay at home. How can they conduct business online? Can they do it on your website? Probably not. Can they find the information that they really need to help get them better informed so when they are able to go out and do things? Probably not. So we need to stop saying think like a customer and actually start thinking like a customer.
Customer first.
There you go.
Can't disagree. I guess that's why we call this the automotive consumer experience, huh?
Yes.
Listen, thank you again, Lyamen, for organizing this. It was a great effort. Great chance for everyone to meet new people. Meeting John Robertson, Kimberly, great to have you here as well, and Doug. You guys got to meet Mike Correra. For those that are on the webinar, I've been watching some of the chat inputs, and that's awesome. That I hope the panelists got to read some of that while we're in there. And appreciate you chiming in throughout the conversation. Great questions, everybody. And those, Chris and the others that were on the live feed as well on YouTube, thank you guys for chiming in.